Okay, PyBOMBS and CGRAN. I talked about this on Monday. Who was here on Monday for this presentation, actually? Substantial percentage of the crowd, and also I think that those who were not here will probably already have heard of PyBOMBS. So I want to show off some stuff, and also I want to try and be on time. I'm aiming for 20 minutes, is that correct? So, okay. So I'll blaze through these slides, and you can always interrupt me with questions. So CGRAN is something I don't really want to talk about all that much because I think you've all seen it. I'm just going to pull it up real quick, if I can. Where is it? No, I broke everything. So CGRAN is our website that where we list all of our, I literally don't know what I just did, where we list all of our out-of-tree modules. And out-of-tree modules are the fancy things that people are working on. I'm just going to hit buttons now and see what happens. That's how I do all of my work, really. Yeah, see that? There we go. No. Okay, clearly I should not be the one doing this. Okay, okay, I'm just going to sort of talk ahead. So we have this website called CGRAN, and it's somewhere on my computer, and I'll find it very shortly. And what it does is it lists all of our website in an automated fashion. And I'm not going to waste any time. So it's just a website which lists out-of-tree modules. One thing that I can't show anyway, but because it's not integrated yet, but that our GSOC student Ravi worked on was to integrate a protocol where you click on links on CGRAN, it'll automatically install them. So I don't know. I'm just going to drag over this viewer, and then I'm going to have a slightly less professional presentation, but this will do. Okay, so CGRAN, check it out. It's really nice, but I don't really want to talk about it here. I want to talk about PyBOMBS, and the key question I need to answer before I go into this is why we even need PyBOMBS, and really, the answer is that it's one of the best ways to install GNU Radio. So this is the slide where I'm aiming for all this time. This is sort of the top 4 ways to install GNU Radio. The easiest way is to not install it. You just plug in the DVD that's available. You all got it as part of your registration, boot it up. You have all kinds of tools available, not just GNU Radio. You have a whole bunch of very interesting out-of-tree modules available just by plugging in the USB. Super easy. If you want to actually have it in your regular system, you can just do apt install, or you can do DNF install, or whatever it is that your distribution provides. Then there's PyBOMBS, version 2, and then number 4 is source build. So someone asked me yesterday and said, this is confusing. I don't know which one of these to pick. And it really shouldn't be hard to pick. Basically, you should start from the top and then pick one of those until it suits your needs. So clearly, if you use the live DVD, you will not be able to update your system, right? So if you want some kind of persistence, this is not going to work for you. So you go to the next one, try apt-get install GNU Radio. This will probably work fine, but it won't give you the automatic ability to install out-of-tree modules, and the versions of GNU Radio and other dependencies, such as UHD that you might get, will be outdated, possibly. Maybe they're not. Maybe they're fine for your needs. Then PyBOMBS is what I'm going to talk about next. And if you're unclear or not, if you want to do a source build, then you do not want to do a source build. Like you will know once you get there. And once you're able to do those, you will not need this kind of presentation either. So yeah, let's talk about PyBOMBS finally. So what do you need to use PyBOMBS? You will need a laptop like this or any other that's running Linux or Mac. Unfortunately, not Windows. That would be nice to get covered at one day, but we're not there yet. We support a whole bunch of distributions. Really, all you need is Python. And then what you do is you do pip install Python, because that's really all you need to do. So all my animations. You do pip install Python, and that's it. Then you have PyBOMBS available. You do pip install PyBOMBS, and then you have PyBOMBS available. You can also install the GUI, which I'm going to hopefully show off if it chooses to appear on the screen. But I will actually be demonstrating stuff using the command line tool, which I personally prefer. But it's the same with all tools. If you have a GUI and a command line tool, you might have your own preferences. So this is how you get PyBOMBS. It's really that easy. if you want to use it to install GNU Radio, you will also need to run these commands afterwards. Now you can just trust me and run these commands, it'll work fine. But I do, like in this session, do want to give some explanation of what they actually mean. Oh, geez. No. What I'm trying to do is drag a window from the other screen, but it won't let my mouse cursor go there. There we go. Here it comes. This is my terminal window. As you see, I've actually been playing around with PyBOMBS. I'm just going to clear that screen, though. So PyBOMBS recipes add is the command that I ran. And you can do something like this. It'll add some repository. I've already added a couple, so I'm going to skip that step. But you can do PyBOMBS recipes list afterwards. Actually, I'm going to Control-C that because I'm going to list all the ones that start with GR, which are the out-of-tree modules. And this will show you exactly the recipes that I have on my computer, which I can now install. Now, this seems very odd and abstract, and at this point, I would recommend going back to CGRAN, which gives you a nice graphical overview of these. But this is sort of the underlying mechanism that powers PyBOMBS. Is like all of these recipe files sort of carry information about what is actually necessary to install something. So for example, let's pick this one randomly, spec-s. I'm just going to open this. You will see this is a very simple YAML file. All it does is it says, okay, if you want to install that, you first need to install these dependencies. And if you want to download the source code, you go to this location. And then it's also a CMake style thing. PyBOMBS knows how to handle all these things. You don't really have to care about this unless you want to provide your own recipe for your own project. And Chris is actually going to talk about how to do that on Friday. OK, so let's go back to the slides. And there we go. Let's put this aside. And assume that you've run through all of these commands. All you have to do now, and that's all you have to do to install GNU is run this one command. And that's it. And I remember going back a couple of years in the past, like this was a bit of a hassle. You had to sort of figure out paths, and there was like Python paths, and the boost version, etc. This is the single command that will do a source build, which means it'll get the newest version, but you don't have the disadvantages of running your own source build. So if I go back to my command line and run this command, this is what you'll be seeing. I want to be as explicit as I can in this presentation to make it very clear that this is very simple for most people. Prefix init. I think I still have it in my bash history. There we go. It's not exactly the command as I have on this slide because, as you can imagine, I've already run this. But let's just run this. You'll see it says, OK, I need to go to this directory. And this is all the packages I want to install. I'm going to start with RTLSTR because it's at the bottom of the dependency tree. I'm going to clone it. And actually, this is not a PyBOMBS bug. This is something that someone reported this morning. Something's wrong with this repository. But it'll at least give you an error message about that. And then you can go back to GNU Radio and the GNU Radio mailing list, and people will tell you how to fix that. But it doesn't matter because I already have this installed into a prefix on my computer. And I'm just going to show you where it went. So I have this directory called prefix, and here I have a couple of these. And the one that I'm interested in is called default. So this is where everything lives. And the nice thing about this is let's say I want to deinstall my GNU Radio installation. All I have to do is delete this directory. There's nothing, there will be no residual files afterwards. So let's say I want to run packets that I installed into this prefix. What I can do, and this is sort of the more complicated ways, I will source this file, and then all the commands I type in now will be directed to the things that I installed. So for example, if I do this, which I also installed through PyBOMBS, it'll tell me, OK, if I want to run this command, it'll actually pick the one from the prefix. This might remind you a little bit of Docker, except that there's no actual container. It's just a directory. That's actually what inspired me to add this little feature as I was working on my slides. So say I want to run something out of this specific prefix, then I can just do this. So PyBOMBS run Radio Companion, there we go. It'll fire it up. It'll give me a couple of warnings if I have them as my regular output. And there we go. That's my GRC. So I had to type about 5 commands to get to this stage. I had to wait a bit, but I don't have to supervise my computer while I'm doing that. So that's why I think this is highly useful. So let's actually I'm gonna get rid of this here for a minute and go back to my slides. So because I do have a bit of a structure that I wanted to follow. So the whole concept of a prefix, and I just want to iterate this, even though I've already used this in the talk, is quite simple. In sort of classical Unix land, we install stuff to these directories, user or user local, and those are called the prefix when you sort of type in the individual commands. But if I could just pick any other directory as well, and I can pick one where I have the permissions to write to. So I don't need sysadmin rights, and I can just delete it when I'm finished, and all the good things. The only issue I have to take care of is I have to tell my system that now this directory stores all the new things. And there's nothing special about this directory except for the fact that I have a PyBOMBS subdirectory in there, which stores some configuration information. So ls-a, you'll see, oh, there's, sorry, there we are, PyBOMBS. It has a couple of things sort of that it keeps track of what it was doing beforehand. But even if I delete this, the rest of my installation will still work just fine. Okay, let's put this on the side again, and go back to the command that I initially ran to install all of GNU Radio. This is the same command, only I split it up on several lines. So everything starts with PyBOMBS. You know, it's like git or other commands that have subcommands. In this case, I have a subcommand prefix in it. I want to initialize a prefix. I'm going to call it default, which is just a name, but it's nice because it's supposed to be my default location. And then I will point it to a recipe which will set up the entire thing. And that's why this is so easy to handle, because all the recipes actually store all the configuration settings that we require to run such an installation. Okay, I've already shown you a recipe, so I can skip this, but just to sort of emphasize how easy it is to actually get stuff installed, I'm going to close this shell window and open a new one here. And let's say I want to install something like GRPaint. So this is literally all I have to do. I type this, it'll figure out which prefix I was aiming for. It'll clone it, it'll configure it, it'll build it, it'll install it. And now if I do my PyBOMBS run thing again, PyBOMBS run Radio Companion. This is the same command that I ran beforehand. I just wanted to make sure that there's no smoke. Where's my Radio Companion? Here we are. Please come to the foreground. Thank you. I type paint, and there we go. We have the new blocks. So you don't have to worry where the source code lives. You don't really have to even know exactly the specific configuration steps that are required. Just type that command, and if it's in the recipe, you'll get it. Very, very easy. So I actually want to sort of speed up a little because I want to make sure that I don't steal Nathan's time. But one thing that I do want to point out, at least in this, I'm just going to go straight to the end here. For this presentation, is this works also in a cross-compile environment. So I'm just going to grab my command line again. There we go. And here's a command I ran earlier, PyBOMBS prefix info. And you can see it lists all the prefixes that I currently have. So I have the default one, and this one is where I install like the main or master branches of GNU Radio. But I also have one for E300 development, which is an embedded SDR, as you know. I have one for RFNOC development, etc. So I can switch between these very easily. Now, has anyone tried like installing out-of-tree modules into an SDK environment? Quite a few. Was it annoying? Like, did you run into something? Can you just say yes for the presentation? Thank you. So there are sometimes additional linker commands that you have to pass in before it picks up the right version. This is particularly annoying if you have an SDK that already includes packages such as GNU Radio, and then you reinstall a different version of GNU Radio in the same directory. So what do I have to do to install, say, GRPaint into my E300 cross-compile environment? Guess what? It's exactly the same. I just run this, it'll clone it, it'll set all the settings, and this will, I don't think GRPaint is a very useful module to run on an E300. The point is though, yes it is. Is it? Yeah, okay, I take it all back. Oh, well, fantastic, even better. So here's an even easier way to use that useful module. Oh, you're running GRPaint on there?
It's pre-recorded.
Mind blown. Okay. Yeah, so I went through this pretty quickly, really so I could actually put in, like, have at least 2 minutes for questions, because I had a lot on my Monday presentation. Are there any?
All right. While Nathan gets set up, Nathan, are you going to use your own laptop? All right. While Nathan gets set up, does anybody have any questions for Martin?
One thing I remember myself personally running into that, I don't know, surely it's my problem, but I'd like to hear your thoughts. I always see all the time you specifically say on the mailing list, you don't need to run sudo, and even you shouldn't run sudo, just run PyBOMBS as it is. Every time I try that, I get some problem. I always have to go to sudo to get something to install. Do you have any idea what's going on there?
No, I can't comment on your specific case. So PyBOMBS will ask you for sudo rights if it thinks it should be installing stuff into the system. For example, excuse me, if you ask it to install Boost, and even if you implicitly ask it to install Boost because you're installing GNU Radio and it's not available, it'll actually run something like apt-get. But then it'll just ask you. For regular compiles, and this is true for source builds of any kind and source build and PyBOMBS builds, you don't want to use sudo.
Is there...
It's okay. Let's do one in the back and then get to Dan, and then we'll...
Is there a straightforward way to specify a particular version of, say, UHD or GNU Radio to install without going in and changing recipes?
Yeah, I wish I hadn't disconnected my laptop. It's not hard at all. There's a subcommand PyBOMBS config, which will allow you to override any kind of setting for any recipe. And that setting will also get only locally stored in your prefix. So you can have 3 prefixes with 3 versions of GNU Radio just by running that command.
Dan?
I've got 2 questions. If you're building for the E310 with PyBOMBS, does that necessarily require you to install or to build everything, including GNU Radio and the whole image for the E310? So if you download Phil's SDK, for example, that already includes GNU Radio. Right. Now you have a choice. You can say, okay, I want to override that, or I want to keep it. And you can toggle that setting pretty easily in PyBOMBS. And it'll understand, like, by default, it knows there's a GNU Radio unit. So you have to override that, and then it'll install a new GNU Radio. And if you do that, then the out-of-tree modules will pick the right version of GNU Radio. And my second question, which kind of harkens back to what he was asking, when I build GNU Radio on my desktop with PyBOMBS, the only thing that holds me back today is that when I install UHD, the permissions don't get set. So luckily, I've been around long enough that I know where to go back and look for that. Is that something that, am I doing something wrong, or is that something that's just not in there?
What do you mean, which permission?
UDEV
rules. Okay.
That's right.
I don't think UHD does that in a source build by default at all. Like, it doesn't matter if it's PyBOMBS or not. So maybe that's something we need to fix. So maybe we want to run some kind of like post-processing command or something. That's a good idea. PyBOMBS will actually let you do that, like run other commands after doing make install, for example. So it would be easy to change. I hadn't really thought about it yet. Yeah.
I see at least 2 other questions, but we really got to move on. Would you mind following up afterwards, or even better on Friday when we have lots of walkthrough time? Awesome. Thank you. Let's thank Martin.